So Lakshmi actually represents peace of mind. And remember, the focus of this whole retreat is Ramayana, Mahabharata, and what's your story in Kali Yuga, right? So the peace of mind symbolism in Ramayana is Sita. So Ram literally loses his peace of mind, and that's where Hanuman comes in as the prana. He's the higher end of prana, where he unites Ram to Sita, you know. And Sita is an incarnation of Lakshmi, and Ram is incarnation of Vishnu. So the whole thing keeps going on, and so we always want to ask, what would these deities do when they amongst us? Like, what would Jesus do, right? So what would Krishna do? Krishna, Christ, Jesus, Christ, same thing, right? So when you're in Kali Yuga, yogi goes to, now Krishna becomes a pizza wala. He makes and sells pizzas. So yogi goes to Krishna and says, trying to be wise, make me one with everything. Place an order. So he gives Krishna $20 and then asks for change. And Krishna replies, real change comes from within. Yeah. So that is this retreat. This retreat is about change from within. And one of the things that Jyoti mentioned, that's really what started this cascade of thoughts in my mind. During the puja, she said something about Vedantic religion, where we pray for other people. So it's pray for everyone. And the word for world in Sanskrit is Jagat. But it's the world we create. Each of us, when you wake up in the morning, you reboot your body and mind, and you reboot the world, you know. So that's the word. The word for world in Sanskrit is Jagat. But it's the world each of us creates. So guess what? We are all in a world here. We've created here. You come here out of your own free will. So this is our world, and that's where we're going to pray. And there's actually a science behind this. Have you heard of Lynn McTaggart? She wrote The Intention, the field. You should get that for your consciousness hacking. So there's this whole... see, there's a law of attraction, right? You probably know that. It's very popular in India too, where when you have positive thoughts, you can influence your life. There's a 17-second cascade of positive thoughts, and it comes to 108, which is interesting. And then, so what you can literally manifest. And that movie Secret, anyone see that? Yeah, that was based on this, and it bothered me. I knew many of the guys there, Amit Goswami, and I used to teach at Deepak Chopra 15 years ago. He got me started in archetypes, and he's a good, very profound teacher. I'm very grateful to Deepak. He and I speak in Hindi. But I felt he was, addressing people who are already abundant, the 1%, So his nickname was Deep Pockets Chopra. I mean, you would charge in those days, 15 years ago, the seduction of spirit. For 1 week, he'd charge $7,000, Now it's 15. It's, he's worth it, but the audience is very sort of people with money, and I didn't feel comfortable. I'm more like, I feel Jesus, right? Jesus is about 99%. So the one of the things that also hit me is, so Lynn McTaggart, she changed it around. So the law of attraction is for you. It's to help you. What she did, and has been scientifically proven with a lot of cases, there's a whole book on it called The Power of 8, where 8 is just a nominal number. It's for practical reasons, but it's really a power of community. When you pray for someone else, it's powerful. People have gotten healed from diseases, terminal ones, including cancer. Are you part of a group or? I'm sorry, I took your spot. Yeah. Sorry, Michael. So when you pray for someone, it's very powerful. That's what she discovered through thousands of cases. Illness, financial issues, relationship, that's a big one. Tomorrow we might do one on Radha Krishna. Because I call relationships a white person's karma. Sorry. It doesn't last, Seriously, it's happening in India too. Relationships is evolving. The concept of what is a relationship. By white I'm using the word, it's Western, So when you pray for someone, it's really proven to work. It's even proven to stop wars, When you have enough people, and there are groups of 8 all over the country and all over the world, and it's even proven online. So we can even do it virtually. We're going to do it through murtis. And we're yogis. We're the resistance. We are the leaders. We're going to do it through mantras. We're going to do it through mythology. We're going to do it through the power of our will and our drive. We have the yogis. We are the leaders, literally. We have that sankalpa and we have the tapas. We do the practice. We're not the new agers who don't do the work. Our trunks are twisted. Ganesha's trunk twisted. Remember that? So let's get into the mythology first. Okay, so Lakshmi comes from what is called the churning of the ocean of milk. I think some people have heard that, right? Have you heard that? Who's heard that? Okay. So it always starts with a very innocuous event. There was and I'll go into the symbolism. So there's symbolisms, there's a story, there's mantra, and there's meditation. But now we are going to add another layer where it's a Vedantic religion now, where we're going to pray for someone else, because that's proven to work, because people have abundance issues. So we're going to, each of you is going to look into Lakshmi's in each other's eyes, because Lakshmi is us in Kali Yuga. The gods and demons are within us. Okay, so the mythology is, and here's where I need the feedback like yesterday. I loved, so remember at the beginning of the funnel there's a cortisol, right? Kind of wakes you up. And then there's dopamine. And then there's oxytocin, right? So you got to, if something connects, just yell it out like yesterday. If you feel anything, don't feel. So there was a sage called Sage Dhruva. And these sages are like, Swami Tattva Vidananda, Jyoti was talking about yesterday, her teacher. He's an amazing guru. He's got a double PhD, chemistry and Sanskrit. Dude ran a big lab in India. He walked away. He had enough of the BS. And he's a Maha teacher. He's written 80 books, And where was I going? I just blanked out. Churning of the ocean. His name is Swami TV, and he really doesn't care about money. Sage. He's a sage, a rishi sees. He has insight. So Swami TV, I wrote him a check for $500 2 years ago. He still hasn't cashed it. He doesn't care. So part of being in the flow state is what I call autotelic, where you literally you don't care about what the common measures are in the world. You don't care. And yet you're compassionate. Okay? So this sage was the same way. Dhruva. So Indra, the head of the gods, and you don't want to piss off a sage. These guys have power. So this is the head of the gods, Indra. He goes on an elephant to visit. Make sure I have eye contact with all of you. To visit the sage, and the sage, wanted to honor the guest, right? In the Indian tradition, guest is God. It's called Atiti Devo Bhava, right, Rahul? So when guest comes, we feed him, we take care of him. Literally, guest is God. But guests are also mindful. Then they understand the Jewish tradition. They don't overstay. So the Jewish tradition says, Guests are like fish. After 3 days, both start to stink, right? So everyone is mindful. You don't overstay your things, stuff like that. So the sage wanted to honor Indra with a garland, and Indra really didn't, he gets his bouts of ego, Indra is like Zeus, very similar. So Indra just put the garland on the elephant. He rides an elephant. And the elephant, the fragrance bothered him. He tossed off the garland. So such an innocuous event, it starts like a massive world war. Just like Austria, right? The prince gets assassinated. World War I happened. Frederick, right? So you got to be mindful. That's one message, how you relate in the world. And so the sage gets really mad. You don't want to get a sage mad. And he curses Indra that not only you, but all the gods in your life, your posse, will lose their powers. And that's what happened. So the gods lose their power. What's the metaphor in your life? We go through these periods where your life just breaks apart. We lose our powers, We feel, in psychology, learned helplessness, right? You take a mouse, you drop it in ice water, it can swim for 23 hours. The subconscious kicks in. You hold the same mouse for an hour by the tail and you drop it in ice water, it drowns. Why? You lose agency. You lose free will. It's called learned helplessness, right? The world creates learned helplessness, and we can occasionally lose our power. That's the metaphor. So when the gods lose their power, we lose that agency. Then there's a perennial battle within the gods and demons, right? So now we're talking about Kali Yuga, right? So the gods and demons within us, the demons take over, right? And there's an imbalance. So you can get into addictions, you can get into all kinds of issues when you lose power, when you lose your clarity, when you lose your groundedness. So who comes whenever there's an imbalance in the world? Which deity comes? Anyone? Shiva's destruction. Who else? Vishnu, right? My boy from Boston. Michael, Vishnu, right?
Oh, I thought to destroy addiction.
That's another story. Tomorrow we'll get into that. Yes, that's another story. So Vishnu comes to create the rebalance. So even this hashtag Me Too, there's an energy where it has to be rebalanced, but not the pendulum shouldn't swing the other way. So Vishnu counsels Indra that, hey, you can get your powers back, and Lakshmi is really about that, the abundance, because there's no abundance in the world. We've lost our powers. And Lakshmi really represents Sita, peace of mind, because when you have peace of mind, you feel abundant, okay? That's really what it is. It's not just cash, okay? So Indra gets counseled by Vishnu that when you churn this, what is called an ocean, called the ocean of milk, you can get back your powers. And Indra decided to do that with his gods. There's a whole bunch of gods he has, but the endeavor was huge. So they enlisted the help of the demons. Okay. Remember, if anything hits you, you got to say cortisol or dopamine or oxytocin. So I'm getting, then I'll get a feedback if the story is connecting. Okay, cortisol. Okay, cortisol means getting attention. Okay, bomb chai is another cortisol, right? So the effort was so vast, they enlist the help of the demons. And you see it in Thailand. When you go to Suvarnabhumi airport in Bangkok, there's a massive 50-foot statue of this, big mountain, and there's a snake, and gods and demons on either side. That's the churning of the ocean of milk. It's a popular worldwide mythology. So they used a big snake called Vasuki, and the gods were the head, and the demons grabbed the tail, and they used a mountain called Mandara. Mandara. So this is a metaphor for a yogic path. So we can use the positive, even though when you're down in the dumps, you have had a Kali moment perhaps, but it's time to have a sankalpa and get back. So we can use the positive and negative tendencies within us. We are both, right? Gods and demons, to churn out abundance. Okay, you got to buy the lottery ticket to win the lottery, right? So the Mandara, man means mind, dhara means single pointed. So you got to get to work, you got to be single pointed. That's the metaphor of the mountain, and the gods and demons are the positive and negative, and the churning is the snake represents desire, right? We have a sankalpa. Desire, even in Shiva, Nataraj, the snake is wrapped around him. It represents desire. It's like a cobra's venom. When it grabs you, it doesn't let go. But here it's a positive desire. Like the way the snake sheds its skin. That's the ultimate transformation. That's what we want, okay? So, this churning, but then the mountain starts to sink in the ocean. So, who comes whenever there's an imbalance? Vishnu, right? So, Vishnu comes as a Kurma avatar. So, Vishnu has 10 incarnations. Kurma is a tortoise. So, the tortoise holds the mountain, right? And the 10th incarnation will come to mark the end of Kali Yuga. It's called Kalki avatar. He'll come riding on a white horse, okay, to kill the demon Kali. And that Kali demon is everywhere. It creates all this jealousy, greed, and climate change, and anger, and everything. So we have that main demon Kali, So Vishnu supports the mountain, the churning begins. And this happens over like millions of years. Now time scales are different. Millions of years there might be a yoga teacher training you're doing. Yeah, you have to take this story in today's times. So how long is the average training? Perhaps, how long is your training, Lori?
9 months.
9 months, that's like a baby, right?
Yeah. 1 week in a month.
Okay, so it depends, right? And so it takes a while. It's not like a weekend. That's called Dunning-Kruger. People take a weekend workshop on the Bhagavad Gita and go around teaching Bhagavad Gita. That's called Dunning-Kruger effect, where the opposite of knowledge is the illusion you have knowledge. People love to. That's Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is people are, MSU. That is making stuff up. I took a vow not to swear. Yeah, that's called scatological, right? So, I get distracted. Pull me back, okay? So the story, the churning, right? Cortisol? Yeah. Cortisol. The snake gets pissed off. The snake starts to emit massive amount of venom, poison, called halahal. And it's like taking over the world, And this, in a spiritual path, when we embark on this journey, this retreat for 5 days, 4.5 days, is like that. This churning, some poison will come out. It could be a significant other who's resistant. There were 10 more people who had signed up. They can't make it. They send me emails and texts. Or life happens. A woman's sister got sick, stuff like that. It could be anything. But the poison comes from karma. It can come from people who are not resonating what you're doing. It coming from maybe internal. You want to go back to your addictions. You want to go back to the sameness, So that's the metaphor of the poison. And who rescues the world from poison? This time it's Shiva. Yes, he drinks it. Yeah, he drinks the poison. So what the thing is, Shiva, and that's why I love it. Peter, your first murti is Shiva Nataraj. He drinks the poison. He is very compassionate. Okay, But then he's starting to get empathy fatigue. There's a real phenomena called compassion fatigue. When you keep helping, you had that, right, Gabriela, where when you keep helping people, you get fatigue. It happens to me at these festivals. The fifth day, I'm like, at a yoga festival, I'm like lying down and people are because people talk to me about their stuff and it can get to you, right? So Shiva's getting all that fatigue. So the first thing his wife Parvati, and there's a Parvati right there, the beautiful woman right behind Rick, right? Yeah, there you go. She grabs his throat and so the poison doesn't go down. She's Shakti, right? And that's why Shiva is called Nilakanta, the blue throat. There's a whole Nilakanta path in yoga, But then he needs help healing, and Tara, one of the Dasha Mahavidyas, she actually heals him. So there's a very beautiful Tara archetype. Tara is right away in the top, the feminine aspect of Buddha. Okay, you see the two women on either side of Buddha? Those are Taras, Very beautiful, powerful, compassionate for healing. Wisdom and compassion should eventually, when you have true wisdom, not intelligence, right? Wisdom is applying in action. It leads automatically to compassion, because wisdom realizes in oneness. Okay, so coming to the metaphor, this churning is a yogic path. Does that make sense? You with me? Friction. We creating tapas. Yeah, that friction causes the poison too. The tapas, right? I was in Shivananda ashram. I teach at their teacher training. That's why Arati and I first met. And I won't say who else met with you, right? That's your poison, right? That's another story. She knows. That's her bhav buster, right? So you're in the bhav and then you have a bhav buster, right? So the idea is, I was in Shivananda ashram. I've been teaching 8 years at the teacher training, and they take civilians and then have them chant mantras and do the yoga teacher training for 1 month, And it's intense, and poison comes out. So a guy in one of my trainings, on the second day, while doing yoga, he got frozen. He was in this pose for like 1 week. Literally. He wouldn't move. Because stuff is coming out. He's not used to all this. He's suddenly thrown into a sattvic atmosphere from Kali Yuga. Okay? So stuff comes out. That's the poison. So, okay, that's why Shiva helps us. So Shiva is called Bholeshwara, is very innocent. He loves his devotees. So show love to Shiva. He's very... Shiva, you can go very close. Like when you have a Shiva Lingam, Murti, you can pour water in a temple. You can go up front, go close, cool Shiva down. He's kind of a bit bipolar, he can get hot and cold. He's very emotional, Shiva. He's very simple man, right? Bholenath, he's called. Yeah, easy to please. Shiva is the easiest to please. He's called Bholenath. Whereas Vishnu, Krishna, there's some distance. The priest will only open the curtains like 3 times a day. That's only when you go. With Shiva, you can go and literally, I have done that. I have hugged many lingams. It's like hug a lingam, There's a lingam murti. Drew, yeah, right there. Right? You see the lingam. So, see, through this story, there are many teachings going on. You're getting a guided tour of the whole thing, right? So, and we will do a guided tour tomorrow. I don't want to freak Kurt out. We're going to test another filming. And then the churning continues, and all kinds of wonderful stuff comes. A wish-fulfilling tree, a rare diamond, and then Lakshmi emerges. Lakshmi comes from the churning of the ocean of milk. So she's not like like a traditional. So there are deities which are called Ayoni, Ayonija. Are you familiar with the word Ayoni? Ayoni, which didn't come from a yoni. They come. Any other deities which are Ayoni? Hanuman. Who else? Ganesh. That's a big one, right? She created him and then breathed prana, right? Hanuman, this woman, Anjana, wearing a skirt, monkey woman, queen, was praying for a son, and Shiva lets his seed out in the wind. It's a PG-13 story. I'm sticking to my... So the wind flutters the skirt, and whoo, a little baby pops out. That's why it's PG-13. We don't know what happens inside the skirt, right? So that's Hanuman. He didn't come from like a traditional, but there are other deities which come from traditional, okay? So it all depends. This is mythology, okay? So where am I in the story? Anyone? Lakshmi, right? So the other thing of storytelling is neurocoupling. Neurocoupling is when we are all synced together. The mirror neurons are like connecting, okay? We're all together. And the spiritual neurocoupling happens when you know what I'm going to say before I say that. So let's test that, okay? That's when we're totally in sync. So the metaphor of Lakshmi is what happens when you do the work of yoga. And I watch you guys. I know who are the yogis who are doing the sadhana. As you know by now, yoga is not like just physical. This is the entire yoga, this retreat, right? The physical is just like half hour. The rest is philosophy, mantra and all that, chanting. So what starts to happen in yoga is you start to develop more of a flow, the charisma. I'm not talking about the yogis in America, okay? The traditional, you know, the Yoga 6 and the franchise model. New York Times had an article recently. It was called Namaste, but now you pay. It's a whole capitalistic system of yoga. They want you in the teacher training, they recruit. It's like it's crazy. It blew my mind. Did you see that article, Drew? Namaste, but now you pay. I mean, it's horrible because that's that's Kali Yuga. They are using yoga and making it voga. White people yoga, yeah. But there's a power of community. My daughter in Seattle, Janita, she does yoga. She loves yoga as a health hack. You know, she's a millennial. She's 25, and she also is considering taking teacher training. You know why? It's community. Yeah. The yogis, we love community. So there's a power. So let me finish my thread, and then use the phone. Yeah. But I don't want us to get too distracted. Focus on Lakshmi because, okay, I'm just getting warmed up. So Lakshmi comes when you're in the flow state. That charisma is called De. I talked about that, the Wu Wei, right? The Lao Tzu. So as yogis, and that's where we have to watch out. Okay, when the charisma comes, along with that will come the opposite sex, okay? We should not get into positions where we manipulate, okay? That's why we need checks and balances. We had that conversation yesterday, right? About these scandals. So the checks and balances could be your teacher or could be a spouse who really is strong, cares for you. So there's some real issues in the yogic path. Otherwise it'll come back, it'll spiral down, as we've talked about, okay? So Lakshmi comes when you do the work. That's the first message. Does that make sense? You with me? You can't just lie back and say, hey, law of attraction, Lakshmi. Yes. Who are they?